I wanted to make a video about a cheat code in a relationship to make a relationship successful. And I think that this applies to both men and women. And so the cheat code is you sit down at a table and list out maybe the top 10 things that is in your ideal partner. So I had been through a bad breakup. I was really emotionally distraught. And in a breakup, it takes months for the clouds to part and for you to feel better. And I was kind of getting towards the end of it, and somebody had said, hey, why don't you do this exercise? Why don't you sit down at a table and why don't you write down what your ideal woman looks like? And I did. And I'll rifle them off, and then I'll kind of go through each one about why that was important to me. So I wrote down, I want a more traditional woman. I want a woman that's family oriented. I want a woman that loves to laugh and play. I want a woman that is kind and caring. I want a woman that is passionate. And I want a woman that is not a drug addict or an alcoholic. And so I made that list, and I looked at that list after I was done. It probably took me less, probably half an hour, right, to kind of sit there and looking at the list. Maybe less. And when I was done, it was such a profound experience because I looked at the list and I asked myself, what about my past relationships? Do they fit into the list? And none of the women in my past relationships fit that list by mile. And so it was it was like a revelation that I had, and I really was appreciative of the person that gave me that advice to take a look at making this list. So I strongly, strongly recommend that you make that list. You sit down at a table and you write it. The reason that it's important to write it is because a lot of times we have a feeling that we have definition in our lives, but we actually don't. We have a lot of things swirling around in our psyche, and when things present themselves, we say, oh yeah, that's probably something I would like. But unless you are driving it and you've written it down, it doesn't exist as a definition. You have to, it's like dredging stuff up from the surface. It's like fishing and starting to pulling up a line, and you say, oh, I think I know what this is. And then you pull it up and you realize, oh, this is something different. So through the process of dredging down into your psyche and pulling these things up and defining for yourself the list of maybe 10 bullet points of what I really want as a must in a relationship with a woman or a man, that's going to massively add clarity to what you want in life. People make a big mistake in the idea of, for me, I was on the dating apps and I felt that sense of desperation. You're going through pages and pages and pages of swiping and not finding people that, it's like, man, where are all the good ones at? And I know women feel this way, and I know men feel this way too. And you get desperate and you just feel like you're just swiping forever. And at the point of feeling lost and feeling desperate, you feel like you just want to settle for anybody. And for me, I had gone on a lot of first dates and not a lot of second dates. And for me, a lot of it was just, I had been married, I had been divorced, and at this time, I had gone through another breakup and that had seriously impacted me. And I thought, man, I'm not gonna just keep dating people and then kind of like see if it works. I'm either gonna get the vibe that we're on the same page or not. But it's really difficult. The dating process is very difficult. So if you want to drastically change a situation, put yourself into the driver's seat. I think women inherently have their set of standards. I think it's much more common for women to kind of have their list, boom, 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 boom. I think it's less common for men to do that nowadays. And I think that that's why there's so much frustration in the female community. They say men don't know what they want, and it's frustrating as hell. And so that's really frustrating because a lot of men out there are just looking for love and companionship. And they might say they're looking for long term, but they really would just settle for casual sex, right? And I'm not trying to shit talk on men, but I've been there. You just want that companionship and you don't want to use anybody, but at the same time you really are yearning to be with somebody. And it's that's to add clarity to the situation and to drive it to something that's actually productive and going to get you what you want. Define what you want. I want to go through my list a little bit. Alex Hormozi, the famous YouTuber guy, he blew my mind one day. I was watching a video and he says you gotta, it was also talking about defining what you want in life. And he says, for me, I found out that I wanted to be in a more traditional relationship. I wanted to have more traditional gender roles. And I thought, wow, you can do that? You can say that? Because I don't know about everybody else, but in the area that I live in, it's extremely progressive. And it seems like everybody out there, particularly on the female side, is extremely progressive. And so the idea of saying hey, I'm going to draw a line in the sand, and I'm going to say I don't want necessarily to be with somebody that's more progressive. I want a traditional, that blew my mind. And that added a lot of clarity. And that was the number one thing on my list, is I wanted to be in a more traditional relationship with a woman. And I had been with a lot of, not a lot, I'm not some Johnny Rico Suave over here, but in past relationships, I had been with more progressive women, and it just wasn't me. I didn't feel the reciprocity. I didn't feel valued as a man and having equal value between men and women. And I felt that it just wasn't working. And I really wanted to feel in a relationship where men and women have mutual respect, but we are embracing of our genders, and we are more traditional. So that was something that I appreciate Alex Hormozi for kind of shedding a light on. Yeah, you can do that. If it's important to you, this is your list. That's the thing that I want to tell men and women as well. When you're making your list, this is your list. You might be in a relationship right now, and your relationship might suck, and you might be thinking about leaving your relationship. So if you want to do this exercise, that's valuable to you too. Make this list. Make a list of your musts in a relationship. And if you're with somebody, don't have that person and who they are influence their traits, influence the list that you are making now, because they might not match up with what your musts are. People that I had in the past certainly didn't. The next thing on my list was family oriented. I had been with a woman in the past that was very career oriented, and I felt that the priority list was career, kids, and then I didn't really feel like I was on the list whatsoever. And for me, I felt that that was a place where I had absolutely no value as a man in that relationship, and I didn't feel it was ever gonna work. And looking back in hindsight, I feel that there's a lot of things on my part too. I think it's good to do a lot of retrospect and a lot of what was my part in this, what was her part in this. But at the end of the day, I felt that the massive priority was placed on career, and I really detested that. I'd always grown up in more Christian values. The idea that you have God, then you have your wife and marriage, and then you have your kids, and then far below that, you have beyond your kids, you have your community, and far below that, you have your job. Your job is not the center of your universe, and I think a lot of people have their job and their career as a core piece of their identity because that's been pushed so hard in our society. But at the end of the day, I am firmly of the belief that I wanted to be with a woman that placed marriage at the top of the list, just as I placed it at the top of the list, and not a career. The next thing was being knows how to laugh and play. For me, and then it goes on with the family-oriented piece. My wife deals with kids. One day she was telling me the story about how they took worms into her classroom, and they were looking at the worms, showing them to the preschoolers and what have you, and talking about the different parts of a worm, that type of stuff. Well, she takes the worms outside to go let them out, and she tells me that she pretended that she was eating the worms. The kids are all watching her out the window, and she's sitting there, pretending like she's gonna put them in her mouth, and all the kids are laughing and stuff. And for me, that's just such my wife. I think that she's silly, and I really admire that about her. That she's just so confident in herself, and she's silly, and she's just a very loving and joyful person. And I just really admire and love that about her. And I think for me, I am a very playful person. I love playing with kids. I love being silly with kids. I love roughhousing with kids, or throwing the ball around with kids, or jumping on a trampoline, and just the notion of play. And then also with my wife, I like to be playful. We grab each other from time to time, make each other jump. We tickle each other. We pretend to come up from behind her, bite her neck. This is to me the spice of life. This is what I wanted. I didn't want to be with somebody that's really reserved and doesn't like to be touched, or has a lot of they're very they don't like public displays of affection, this type of stuff. I didn't want to be with somebody like that. So on my list I put that. Passionate was another one. I think when you're defining what you want to be with, when you're defining the ideal person in your life, I think that level of intimacy has to be on there. It's a core part of a relationship. So are you the type of person that wants intimacy, once a month? Are you the person that wants it, every day? There's a lot of differences between people, and what I tell people all the time is, if you want it more frequently, you think that the other person that doesn't want it as frequently is wrong. If you want it less frequently, you think that the person that wants intimacy more often is a horny kind of scumbag to a respect. Like they're wrong for wanting it so much. So it's not that either person's wrong. It's that just you're not meant for each other if you have that disparity. So I think it's really important to define what you want and stick with that. Again, having a standard for what you want is the whole point. And then being kind and caring. I had been in a relationship where I felt like when I had gotten sick, the person just didn't care. It was just like they were just disdainful of me for getting sick and being inconveniencing them. And I think particularly this is one to watch out for. I would recommend everybody add that to the list. When you get sick, does that person tell you, hey, go to bed and I'll be in there in a minute, I'll bring you NyQuil, or bring you aspirin, I'll bring you hot tea? Are they caring for you? Caring for your partner is an essential part of a relationship. So with this list, I want to wrap up this video with this list. This list really empowered me to figure out what I wanted. And when I was going on all of these on dating apps and I couldn't figure out, and it just felt so desperate, that was such a terrible feeling. And I know so many people feel the exact same feeling of desperation that I felt. When you make this list, you all of a sudden are putting yourself into the driver's seat, and you're saying, I will not accept anything less. It's not about controlling people. It's not about trying to change people. It's not about being selfish. It's about defining what you want in a relationship and searching for, there's some deer over here. This is awesome. It's about searching for what you want and finding a person that you're aligned with. And so once you find that person that you're aligned with, it's magic. You just feel like, oh my God, why didn't I do this before? And again, in my experience, I made this list and I look back at my past, and a lot of people say, hey, I'm really shitty at picking up a love partner, a romantic partner. And I felt the same way. My current wife, felt the same way. And so once I defined this list, it changed my world. It changed me from being desperate and feeling at the mercy of whoever would come to being in the driver's seat. And I said, this is what I'm looking for. I have my standard. I'm going to put out my dating profile. I'm going to write my dating profile reflective of my list in terms of me representing. I turned it around as a sales pitch of me embodying these things to attract a woman that would be looking for similar things. And it's like putting your bobber out there when you're fishing. You just put it out there, and hey, when I get a bite, I get a bite. If I don't get a bite, I don't get a bite. But this is what I'm looking for, and I'm not going to settle. And that really changed the game for me. And so how it ended up working out is just like, I started getting a lot more higher quality potential matches, because I broadcast to all women out there. I know exactly what I'm looking for. This is what it is. If you fit this and you'd like to join this adventure with me, then I'm welcome I'd love to talk to you. If not, no hard feelings. And that adds a lot of clarity to the dating relationship. When women spot a guy that knows what he wants, it's like a feeding frenzy. They jump all over that because they say, finally, here's somebody that knows what he wants and isn't going to play games with me. So anyways, I'll wrap up. I really appreciate you guys watching. I hope you got a lot out of this video. I hope this is helpful and adds clarity to you. And if you like this video, please, I'm a small channel. It'd mean the world to me if you liked and subscribed, and I'd love to hear people commenting down below. So thank you so much for watching. I'll see you in the next one.